Welcome to the Raj Kotecha Show, #1 podcast in Dubai. We're going to get straight into it. This one is especially for the folks that came out to my friends, your friends last night. We got a lot of thanks to give, and we're going to break down the event and email it to everybody. So if you're wondering why this video showed up in your email, it's because we're still high off last night. We also talk about some incredible stories, including the sale of Tom Ford. Let's see, I don't know, Rishi Sunak heading off to the Ukraine, Louis Vuitton opening its own hotel, P. Diddy expanding his alcohol empire, and Bob Iger, the former CEO of Disney, returning back. Joining me as always is Vic. What's up?
What is up? This was a good episode. I'm hyped from last night from my friends, your friends. So I was excited to get into this one, man. This was a we said that this is going to be a short episode. We'll quickly get into some topics and then bounce, but end up being a nice long episode where we deep dive a lot into the Disney story with Bob Iger and a lot into like the Tom Ford stuff as well. So I'm excited for everyone to listen to this one, man.
Yeah, have a listen, pass off the information as your own. Unfortunately, Alex is not joining us to all the Alex stands because somehow, as a 19-year-old in a mature city like Amsterdam, he's unable to get a Wi-Fi connection. So we'll probably hear from him from next week. We're looking forward to that. And yeah, man, honestly, we see Alex's dad more than we see Alex.
Yeah,
that's whack.
It's true, man.
Maybe you know what we should do? We should probably just have his dad, Daniel, be a co-host on the days that Alex can't make it. And even if he doesn't have an opinion on stories, he can just tell us embarrassing Alex stories.
I think I'd prefer that anyway. I think the crowd might prefer it as well.
All right, brilliant. Okay, wicked. All right, thanks so much for all your support as always. Give us some 5 stars and and let's get into the show. All right, everyone. Welcome to the Raj Kotecha Show. Boy, I'm physically so tired, and we're going to waste no time into getting into the reason why, which is my friends, your friends. How's your morning been today, Vic, after last night?
Buzzing still, man, like buzzing from last night. I think, let's get into it. But last night, in my opinion, was a real success for my friends, your friends, man. Like we had an amazing turnout and, some new things that happened, like having to close the guest list early because of demand. But yeah, man, listen, last night there was a different energy in the air. There was a lot of new faces, a lot. I mean, I don't know percentage wise, but what, maybe 30% new faces, would you say? Probably just a kind of ballpark guess.
Yeah, so we do this thing where, we used to do this from the Love Soul days, which is like if you've been to a Love Soul party before, let us know. And if you've not been to a Love Soul party before, let us know. And it definitely sounded a little bit louder for people that have not been to a My Friends, Your Friends party before, which means that, there was a lot more people joining the community yesterday. And I feel like on this one as well, which was the Creative Entrepreneur Special, the co-host really did a good job in terms of like literally bringing their friends along with them. So I want to give them a quick shout out to everybody who co-hosted last night. Aditi Wag, co-founder of Wasta.com, spelled WASSTA. Our man Ajinkya Tampur, Crossval, guy's going to be a billionaire, has this incredible business where they can do company valuations. Albert Carter from Emirates Music Summit and Audio Swin, Charan Engineer, our friend DJ, great dude, Dan Carby, lit it up last night, turned every party into his own. So it's great to have him there, CEO of Sea Horizon Offshore Marine Services. Gary, man, smashed it. Gary Schenkman, venture partner over at Further, venture capitalist, super cool dude, came through and just brought that kind of like wild, fun energy. Janat Miranda, co-founder of J-Mode, branding company, smashed it. Kelly Marie Hodgkin, looking incredible, by the way. Kelly, like, I don't know what she's been doing, like, health-wise, but she was just glowing. Khaloud was smashing it, public relations, and just being a PR person, she was just networking with everybody and sharing that love. Lachlan was in the house, got a lot of love. Nikki Muki, guitarist, composer, wicked. Nia Roy, hypnotherapist, came in, smashed it, looking incredible. Sandra Tolstakova from wayoutuae.com. They've got these incredible vans where you can go around and do like domestic tourism. What are these things called, Vic? These vans, like
they're like camper vans or caravans or whatever, right?
Yeah, camper vans. Very, very cool. Custom made by her and her team. Sev Sylvester from Rum St. Barth. You'll be hearing more about what we're doing with those guys next year, I'm sure. And Varsha Vin, singer-songwriter. Everybody was on top form. We managed to get a picture, and unfortunately, I think we just missed Kelly. We were messaging on the group and whatnot, and she didn't answer. So maybe she had to leave a little bit earlier. I definitely saw her like hanging out. But thanks to everybody who took part last night. Really incredible numbers, like, close to 250 people, which for a venue like that, as you mentioned, indoor, outdoor space, and you picked up on this morning as well, which I thought was very good, is that the way Jun's is set up, they created space near the DJ booth on the inside. They had the whole garden area outside, or the terrace, and then they had people by the bar as well. So for the first time ever, we saw a My Friends, Your Friends, where let's say it was maybe like 70% outside, 20% in front of the DJ, and then 10% in front of the bar. And still, you almost had like little micro My Friends, Your Friends, these little kind of like clusters, which I really, really liked. And it was a good event. I think what most people don't know is how physically exhausting that event is. Like 3 days before the event starts, we go quite hard in terms of late nights and, doing the little detailing. This time we did some great stuff. We had like stickers for each of the co-hosts, which went down really well. And there's just a lot of operations and logistical stuff, and sometimes even a little bit of stress. But yeah, man, I think you did a great job as well, like in terms of systemizing it. For anybody who's not working in our business, we obviously have been talking in the last year about systemizing everything and writing it all down. And Vic, you basically kept a diary, right, of this year's of this one in detail.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're at My Friends, Your Friends number 15. And you and I, you said it on the mic yesterday, we've been in events either independently of each other or together, or a combination thereof, for around 25 years. And, we've always done things based on like instinct and experience and just kind of creatively what happens in the moment. But there's a lot of elements of an event that can be systemized, like a lot. Everything from, whether it be marketing elements or operations on the night, customer flow, kind of when things happen, and, even down to like talking points on the microphone, they can all be systemized. So I've started doing that. And I felt like, although kind of halfway into doing the systemization, we found these efficiencies, we found these like little gaps in what we do, and we were able to fill them very quickly. So I think, yeah, there was a lot of late nights, a lot of detailing, a lot of stress, but a lot of that was removed from the systemization. So yeah, I think moving forward, using that platform, like, we use Notion to do it, is going to really help us make these events better for the community, and potentially scale as well. We don't know yet what we're going to do, but yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity just purely by systemizing these events. And, as I say, a lot of it's done on instinct and experience. And a lot of the systemization is built from that instinct and experience as well.
Yeah, the outcome of this as well is that, normally we do an event and then we're like exhausted. And then it's like whenever the next one comes along is when we do it. And that might mean that we walk into a venue and we go, yeah, this would be perfect. But I would say that never between two My Friends, Your Friends have I been so excited about the next one. So from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, I'm like, okay, whenever it happens, it happens. I'm really excited about the next My Friends, Your Friends 16, which will happen in early 2023, because I know that Vic's basically documented all of the thought process behind the event, which means that we don't need to duplicate effort and like redo our thoughts. We know that a lot of the elements are kind of ready, and we just need to customize them for the next event. So really, really exciting. My Friends, Your Friends 16 will be coming up next year.
Bless you.
Should we edit that sneeze out, or should we just keep it in? Keep it. Oh, Jesus Christ.
We'll let out one of them, not both of them.
Yeah. Well, we're really excited about My Friends, Your Friends 16 coming up at some point next year. Expect some great changes. Another benefit of us logging it down is that between the last week and the next couple of days, we'll be able to now retrospectively have a bird's eye view on some of the tasks that are involved, because this is a very expensive event, for us to throw. We sponsor it personally, and there's some monetary cost, which is, and there's also like the time that Vic and I both put in to put this event together. That's time that we obviously could be spending in a traditional kind of like quote unquote billable hours thing for our clients and for our customers and folks like that. But we really believe that we have to take some of that time out to serve this community, which we're really passionate about. And you said as well, Vic, that like My Friends, Your Friends, it isn't going anywhere.
No. And I don't want it to go anywhere. There is this clean, I don't know, like, we always talk about My Friends, Your Friends having no actual agenda. And in and of itself, that's an agenda as well, because all we want to do is get people, like cool people that represent who, you know, who and what Dubai really is, in a room together to meet each other, to kind of understand, okay, well, what else is going on in Dubai? Who can they make friends with? Who can they connect with? How can they find like synergies, whether that be, you know, just friendships, business, anything at all. And there's no real agenda as such. And I don't think that Dubai, well, I absolutely know Dubai doesn't have any event like this. And in my personal opinion, this event can't go anywhere. Now, we have discussed on many occasions doing other types of events that may be a little bit more focused on business or industry or whatever it might be. But at its core, my friends, your friends, is effectively agendaless, and it's just a matter of getting great people together. And I think that's what the magic is. And you know, I was speaking to a lot of people yesterday, and the thing that stood out for me in their feedback was like that. It's like, I can come here, it feels like a safe space almost, and it feels like a place where people can just come and go, okay, well, I can just come here and do whatever I feel like I want to do and get whatever I want out of it and give what I want to give. It's not like I have to take 100 business cards and I've got to make sure I give out 100 business cards and get 57 business cards back and and I've got to follow them all up. There's no pressure to it. And the other magic,
it's agenda fluid.
It's agenda fluid. Yeah, exactly.
So shout out to everybody who took part. If you came down last night, we're going to email this episode to everybody who came along last night. Our sincere thanks to you, as I mentioned in the little speech, and obviously shout as well to our friend Daniel Priestley, who has given us a bunch of books for the My Friends Your Friends community. At some point today, we will do a prize draw. We'll do a separate video for that. We'll put it on My Friends Your Friends Instagram, and then we'll reach out to the 9 winners and shout out to our friend who won yesterday as well. He texted me actually. Arnav, that's his name.
Arnav, yeah.
Yeah, Arnav got a ticket nice and early. In fact, he was one of the folks that got on the prize draw guest list. So he got a ticket. So well done to him. And then there'll be 9 other people that'll be getting prizes as well. So we'll announce that very soon.
Yeah, and just on that, just another quick couple of shout outs. So obviously to Eurisha, who held it down on the door for us. Eurisha's a good friend and, you know, a very, very, very kind of loyal member of the My Friends, Your Friends community, and always helps out at these events whenever we have them. And yesterday she came through and just held it down on the door, checking people in and make sure everyone was like good, and worked really well with the Juns team as well. So big shout out to the Juns team. So like Chef Kelvin, the managers, Gilberto, Mariana, the girls on the door, Siri, Lamia, Kate, anyone else?
Man, just they were the people that we spent a lot of time like interfacing with to make sure that the event was super fluid. So yeah, man, we'll be back down at that restaurant at some point soon. We'll try and get Chef Kelvin to give us his feedback as well and release that to the My Friends Your Friends community.
And just the last point on this, we actually ate there last night, and we didn't have much. We just had a few dishes, just to kind of line the stomach a bit. The food was outstanding at Jun's. I mean, like,
really,
it was superb. Like, my wife Shayla and my cousin was there from Portugal, and we had like kimchi rice with like, I think it was like fried garlic. It was phenomenal. We had this like za'atar chaat. That was probably one of the best chaats I've had. They had prawns, and Shayla, you know, loves prawns, and she makes amazing prawns. And she was like, "This is some of the best prawns I've had." Like, the food was really good, like really
like
good.
wet. Like how good compared to like the best in Dubai? Like upper 10%.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because the menu is quite varied. You can't kind of pinpoint the kind of cuisine.
Yeah.
So there's not like a direct comparison. But yeah, man, like from what, like every dish I had like a sea bass ceviche.
Yeah.
And it's probably as good as that one. What's that place in Taj, the Peruvian joint that's not there anymore?
Oh yeah, I remember what you said. Yeah. They've actually that chef's somewhere else now. You know, to your point as well about the food, a lot of like people that lived in Bombay were already knew Chef Kelvin and were fans of his. Like, some people were coming through being like, because, you know, we were making a big deal of the fact that he's going to be in the room. And some people were like, oh, you mentioned on email that he'll be in the room. I'd like to meet him. So I had to grab him a couple of times and be like, yo, this is a former customer of yours from Mumbai, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I think he got a good amount of love as well. And I think his social media is going to be pretty mad today because I spent an hour and a half this morning, albeit in the bath, reposting, and I made sure that I tagged him in on everything. And actually, that's going to become part of our standard operating procedure because my body is so battered after a My Friends, Your Friends, because we do a good amount of steps, inside the venue. And then the next morning you wake up, you're massively dehydrated, you're massively underfed, and I just need that little bath soak, but I need that hour and a half just to get all the not the retweets, the repost on Instagram. So huge shout out to everybody who showed us mad love on Instagram. More content to come out. Oh, and shout out to my man Sid, who let me borrow his Insta360 camera as well. He was actually at the first My Friends, Your Friends. His video organically at the first My Friends, Your Friends over 5 years ago has more plays than anybody else's. He's a big YouTuber here in the region. His name is Sid SV. I've been on his channel a couple of times. He's a great dude. And in the last minute yesterday, I rang him because he's a tech reviewer. And I was like, yo, should I buy one of these Insta360 cameras? He was like, well, just take mine, see if you like it. And then if you do like it, then great. So, yeah, good dude, man. Shout out to Sid, Mumta, and the whole gang over at Startup Hustle Middle East. Go check out their podcast. They're a great bunch. Right. Let's get into some news stories. And then at the end, we'll get into out and about in Dubai. How's that sound?
Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's do it.
All right. First news story. You want to select them and give us the 4-on-1, and then we'll riff on it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I guess the first one that we wanted to just quickly get into is the World Cup. It started on Sunday. Yeah. And neither you nor I are big football fans or have much knowledge on football. So this is going to be quite a quick section. But, regardless of kind of any news stories or anything that's been going on about the World Cup, it started on time and well, seemingly on Sunday with the opening ceremony. I saw bits of it. I was working and I was watching it at the same time. Morgan Freeman made an appearance. There's a massive Korean pop artist. I think he's from BTS, did a performance.
Okay.
And it looked really good. It's kind of what you expect from this region, like big, colorful, big fireworks. They don't hold back. So it looked like a pretty good opening ceremony. And there's been a couple of interesting wins as of late. So yesterday, Saudi played Argentina, and Argentina are pegged to be the favorites to win, I think, or at least near enough to the top. And Saudi Arabia beat them in their opening match. So
now the country's got a national holiday today as a result of that.
Yes, they have. Yeah. So my wife works for a Saudi company, and she got the email yesterday, and I think they're WhatsApp group or Slack groups, and they kind of got the news. I mean, she is working, but I think it's a bit of a lighter day for everyone in Saudi. Yeah, so they're out celebrating, man. So, but good for them, man. That's a very, very unexpected win. Yeah, and good for them. And England won as well. So that's a big win.
England slayed 6-2.
6-2, yeah, 6-2, man. So they had a huge win. And for me personally, obviously my wife is from Portugal, so Portugal are playing tomorrow.
Oh, are
so
they?
We're gonna go watch that. Yeah, and her in-laws are in town, and they're big football.
Her in-laws is in your parents.
My in-laws, my in-laws are in town.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're gonna go watch the Portugal match. They bought me a Portugal top as well, so I'll take a picture.
I've got a Portugal top. Where's the football match? I might come.
It's in Qatar.
No, it's in where are you gonna?
No, we're in Abu Dhabi, right? We're gonna go Abu Dhabi this weekend.
Oh yeah, then I'm not doing that. Yeah, okay,
so we're gonna go. We've booked it. Come down anyway, but we've got a little. We've got a place booked. We're just gonna go watch the match, and they're all big football fans, so everyone's gonna be wearing their Portugal top. And
okay, I remember. Yeah, okay, that's right. You're out of town from tomorrow. Okay, that's all gravy. So yeah, some interesting wins. So funny, almost hilarious that one of the best teams in the world could be beat by Saudi. So good job, Saudi. Well done. I don't watch football. I think we will talk about football for the next 3 to 4 weeks, probably just at a high level. By the way, pro tip when it comes to football, if you are not a football fan like myself, what happens is, I don't know where I saw this notification, that as soon as a football match is done, if you go to the official website, they have a 2-minute summary, which literally has no commentary, no nothing. It's just the guys playing football and just the goals, nothing else, no injuries, no nothing. So it's the most concise executive summary that someone like me could really benefit from. So when England won, there was a 2-minute clip. There was 8 goals in that 2-minute clip. Incredibly high return on investment when it comes to my time. And then I just kind of like got the whole joke. And I saw that, I think Marcus Rashford, who I kind of recognize because he had some like racial controversy before. And I remember I spoke about that on Instagram. And I think he also plays for United. So yeah, good for him. I think he might have been responsible for a number of those goals. So well done, Marcus, and well done to Saudi. And I will be checking out, at least I can commit to watching the summaries. Looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. Well done. Okay, good. So that's World Cup. If you're into it, we probably massively let you down because we're two guys that can't speak on it in any kind of like meaningful way. Next up, what are we talking about?
So let's dip into this like Disney story a little bit. So Bob Iger, who is the ex-CEO of Disney and a beloved CEO of Disney, he's the guy that really kind of over the last 15 years reshaped what Disney is, did all these massive deals with Pixar and Lucasfilms and like, you know, kind of the parks, and really kind of made Disney what it has been for the last kind of 15 or so years. He left as CEO just before the pandemic hit, and they put in Bob Chapek, who is actually a 20-year or so veteran, I think, of Disney. So he knows Disney well. It's not like he's a stranger. So he was a successor. And then news came out 3 days ago, I think it was on Sunday, that he's leaving and Bob Iger is back in the seat as CEO. So a very quick turnaround in just under 2 years or 2.5 years. He's out and Bob Iger is back. And I think this story is kind of making its way around as like this, why has this happened? And I think it seems like, you know, when you kind of listen to the reports, it seems quite obvious why, but, we can deep dive into a couple of the points. So Bob Chapek, he definitely resigned, but he was pushed out because it doesn't happen this quickly. It doesn't happen in like 24 hours to say, okay, well, I'm gone, because Bob Iger's literally, the seat's still warm and he's back in the seat. So, in these sort of situations, there's usually a little grace period. There's like kind of handover or turnaround time, but that's not happening in this case. So Bob Chapek is out straight away. So that's what's happening there. And I think the kind of key points to take away from this are that Bob Chapek took over the reins of Disney just before the pandemic hit. So he'd obviously had an uphill battle. Parks were getting hit. No one was going to the movies. There's a lot of kind of problems that he had to handle. And I think the kind of general consensus is that he just didn't handle any of them really well. Bob Iger is a well-known, loved, individual. And, he's got the relationships. They're in entertainment. They're in Hollywood. They need to schmooze. And Bob Chapek is essentially the opposite of that. So him coming into the seat where it's basically just chaos for the business definitely wasn't the right move. And I think Bob Iger's just got to come in and reshape it and just rework the same magic he did for the last 15 years prior to his leaving CEO. What do you reckon?
Yeah, so I'm late on the story. I've just pulled up, I know you put in here on our notes, the New York Times article, but that's got a paywall in front of it. So as you're talking, I'm just reading the official statement from the Walt Disney board to say that they've put Bob Iger back in as chief executive officer. So yeah, just to color in a bit of your timelines there, he did leave 2 years ago ahead of the pandemic or going into the pandemic. And then he was still sat as executive chairman until only 11 months ago. So he only divorced really from the company entirely less than a year ago. And what was really interesting about that is that this year was the last time that Kara Swisher was doing Code Conference. And so she brought all of the big dogs out. She brought out Tim Cook and some of the senior team from Apple, including Steve Jobs' wife. But one of the interviews that really stood out to me, which you can go and get on the channel, which is, I believe it's the Pivot channel, which she does with Scott Galloway, is her interview with Bob Iger. What I picked up on there is that for somebody who was such a long-standing, long-serving Disney employee and leader, he seemed very happy in that interview a couple of months ago to be out of Disney. Like he was almost like verging on petty. He was like, I just want to grow old, spend time with my kids. I have no intention of going back. And so I can't imagine the size of the bag that the board put together to allocate as a compensation package for Bob Iger coming back. Now, also what the press release says, I'm just going to bring it back up on my screen again, is that Mr. Iger has deep respect of Disney's senior leadership team, most of whom he worked closely with. And then he said, there's something here as well about, so I don't know, maybe that means that maybe Bob Chapek didn't have it. But then also there's something here as well saying about that we're going into increasingly tricky times. Let's have a look. Hang on, let me just pull it up here. There's a line here that made me go, oh, right. They've literally brought him back because Disney recognizes that. Yeah, there we go. The board has concluded that as Disney embarks on an increasingly complex period of industry transformation, Bob Iger is uniquely situated to lead the company through this pivotal period. So he's basically a wartime CEO. That's what we call them.
Yeah.
You bring them in when things are about to get very, very difficult. Streaming is been well known to be taking a lot of its OpEx, its operating expenses, drawing them down from the parks. So streaming is a big business that just spills money, like leaks money. That's why we've seen that overexposure to companies like Netflix. And the reason why an Amazon doesn't have the same threat as a Netflix is that because they've got like Amazon Web Services and like they've got really diversified income, which we spoke about on this podcast before. Disney has that as well. They've got income coming in from different streams, licensing, merchandise, things of that nature, so they can keep streaming afloat. But this, I think, will be definitely Bob Iger's swan song. It's going to be him fixing a very, very complex problem, whilst at the same time, the US economy and most Western economies, most global economies go through effectively what is the recession of all recessions, like the first ever modern post-internet recession. Do you know what I mean? I don't count 08 in that because, not everybody had a smartphone in their pocket. People weren't communicating. There wasn't like all the savagery that you get on social media and all that at that time. I think going through a recession with this laid on top is going to be very, very complex. So it'd be good to see him back. And also, he already did his grand farewell. He released a book. That book did super well.
Yeah.
He did the media tour and everything. It's kind of like farewell tour. So yeah, this is the return of Jay-Z.
Well, there's a lot of fixes that he has to make, right? There's a lot of, there's a Scarlett Johansson suing Disney over her pay. There was, the increase in prices in the parks. There's basically been nothing come out of them from a movie standpoint from all of their franchises, aside from Marvel, because, the Marvelization of cinema, that's the only thing that's working. So there's nothing come out from the Star Wars of any kind of meaning. There's no real animations that's come out that's, of any kind of meaning. So there's a lot of kind of fires to put out that have been kind of laid by Bob Chapek. I actually don't think Bob Iger was given, let me rephrase that. I don't think Bob Iger's primary motivation would have been the bag. He doesn't need the money. Like, I'm sure he's wealthy enough to not worry about the money. I don't think it was the bag. I think they probably just appealed more to his like love for Disney and been like, come on, man, like this is your legacy. You put Chapek in. Now look what's happened. You need to come in and fix it. Now, not as callous as that.
He didn't necessarily put Chapek in because I think they effectively they never really saw eye to eye. I think Chapek was just the next person that the
I think he chose. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I think he chose Chapek as a successor. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken,
just for clarity as well, I don't think I don't think the compensation package was the motivation. I was just saying I can't imagine what they would have offered him.
Right.
Like I don't think the offer brought him back because you're right. He's going to be beyond rich, right? He is on the level of Tim Cook. He's that important a CEO in mainstream America. And being that one of America's powers, which we're seeing and have seen since maybe the First World War, is they have soft power, right? They have cultural power. They're one of the biggest cultural exporters. And one of the pillars of their cultural export, whether it comes to how America views capitalism, family values, adventure, the hero's journey, Disney's the epicenter of that production of that content. So he's really one of the most significant chess pieces in American business, period.
American business and American culture, because, and then sucking up all of these like ESPN, 20th Century Fox, Marvel, Pixar, Lucasfilms. I mean, these are the biggest cultural icons to come out of media, period, like globally. And he was like, I want them all. I'm taking them all. And the fact that he's done that substantiates what you're saying. So, you know, that if that all falls to the ground and just crumbles away, that's his kind of legacy is ruined, you know?
Yeah, so he kind of built he was in there for 15 years. He built an incredible house, and probably a house that can only be ran by the person who built that house. Because if he was doing that much M&A, or specifically like acquisitions, maybe his vision, or the way that all of these items play nice together, whether it be all these intellectual properties or streaming and all that, different revenue streams, maybe when Chapek came in, he just wasn't able to synchronize them as well as the person who actually architected them. So worth keeping an eye on the story. Let's continue to view. I would love to see a comeback of this size for somebody who's quite senior. He's quite an older guy now, so it'd be interesting to see how he navigates it. So that's a big one. What else are we looking at?
Talking about big CEOs, do you want to dive into a little bit of Puff Daddy news, P Diddy news?
Yeah. I think We'll actually let's get into the Puff thing in a little while. Whilst we're still talking about big business, should we get into these this big Tom Ford story as well? Because this is a pretty big one as well. So, as you know, it's been all around the news this week, but there's a $2.8 billion transaction. Estee Lauder has picked up Tom Ford's whole business, really. Now, we were just saying this, that I don't know how much of Tom Ford's business, or what part of Tom Ford's business, was more attractive than maybe the FMCG stuff, because he's in fragrances and consumables, right? Quick consumables, retail consumables.
Well, he's in fashion and fragrance. Those are his kind of two big things.
Yeah, and it's a young business. No, I mean, it's
2005, dude. 2005.
Yeah.
And he's 61. I didn't know that. You look at him, you go, this guy's not 61, man.
Tom Ford looks like that cat who plays Deadpool. What's his name? Ryan something. Is it Ryan Gosling?
Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds. Yeah. He looks like
I don't know, man. Maybe a little bit. Yeah, maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so young, like, he's not a young guy. 61 is young, but you know, he only started the business in 2005, and he's got this acquisition of 2.8 billion, which makes him, you know, effectively a billionaire, right? But I was reading through some articles about it, and you know, Estee Lauder, I think the most attractive thing to them is the fragrance business, because they've gone out and said that this fragrance business could reach $1 billion over the next couple of years. So they've specifically said that. So Estee Lauder owns like Clinique and Bobbi Brown, you know, extremely famous and successful cosmetics brand. They literally have said it's going to reach $1 billion over the next couple of years. So by saying that, their eyes are on that prize. The rest of the business is the rest of the business. They'll make their money back in a couple of years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I was about to say, and as I was thinking it, I just saw it on the article. But you know, we've seen a lot of brands do really well, whether it be like Fenty or the Kardashians or you know, any of these folks. I think the cosmetics is going to be the big play here, because like they're going to be able to take Tom Ford into, and I don't know if Tom Ford's in these worlds already, but like, you know, like lipsticks, mascaras, things of that nature. And it is very much a brand game. So I started my career in the fine fragrance industry, and then I went into like custom cosmetics and things like that. And what most people don't realize is that whatever you call like this fragrance or that fragrance, whether it's CK1 or whether it's Jean Paul Gaultier or whatever, that is made in a plastic bottle or a glass bottle, typically in Germany or that part of the world. It then gets toured to each of the brands, and the brand basically smells the fragrance, and tries to figure out if they can tell a story around it. And if they can tell a story around it, they exclusively buy the chemical composite that is that fragrance, and there's a patent, or you know, there'll be some sort of IP rights over it. The laboratory that makes it either hands over the kind of like the source code of that fragrance, or agrees to make that fragrance only exclusively for that brand. And then that brand then proceeds to do typically a 15-20 year campaign, where the first couple of years are launch, and then the kind of fragrance starts to get its groove. And then if it can, much like a music act, like a Maroon 5, it then enters that legacy period after 20 years, which is the reason why people still buy like classic Hugo Boss, or they buy Jean Paul Gaultier classics, is because these fragrances meant something to them. And then, you know, they want to continue to wear it later on in life. In fact, if you fall in love with a fragrance at 16, there's no reason why you wouldn't continue buying it at 36, because it reminds you of that youthful sprightiness. And a fragrance, much like something that goes into your ear, like music, it reminds you of, you know, that date, or falling in love, or going to your school prom, or your first, like getting your first job. So I think it is one of the things that plays to a human sense, whether it be sight, audio, smell, taste, touch. And that's the reason why I think people don't really talk about fragrances the same way, but it's as important as an important song to somebody, or as an important visual, or an important meal, right? Like the classic McDonald's French fries. Like there's sentimental value behind these fragrances. The long-term ROI for Estee Lauder is pretty much in the bag.
Yeah, absolutely 100%. And people talk about smell in the same way, but they don't specifically boil it down to a fragrance. And a fragrance is really important because, yeah, it just reminds you of all these different points and times in your life. And you're right about the legacy thing now. And also Tom Ford he's a golden child, right? Like he turned around Gucci's women's wear, and then his own brand, which was a clear success. So I don't know what the deal is. I don't know if he stays on in any kind of advisory capacity, in any board capacity. I have no idea about that. But even if he doesn't, yeah, Estee Lauder is it's a no-brainer. In fact, it's probably undervalued at 2.8.
Yeah, I don't think that's unreasonable. Yeah, if you think about the lifetime value, I don't know how much of this was a cash deal, but yeah, you're right. And also, let's not forget,
it's a combination of cash, debt, and deferred payments that will be due in 2025. So it's not just like a straight 2.8 billion acquisition, but yeah. So but yeah, regardless, man. Like
where's it say about is it fixed deferred payments or performance-based deferred payments?
No, I don't have any detail on that. Maybe there's another article somewhere, but
okay.
But yeah, it's a combination of the three things: cash, debt, and deferred payments.
Well, let's keep an eye on this. And also, let's not forget that for all of his achievements, he also had a song named after him, about him, by Jay-Z, albeit on Jay-Z's probably worst album. But yeah, it was Jay-Z had that Tom Ford record, which it had a nice bounce to it. I think Timbaland
it was all right. It was okay. Yeah,
it was all right. It's not something you pull up in your top 50 Jay-Z records, to be fair.
No, definitely not. Definitely.
Yeah.
And do you imagine that top 50? Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's Hove, isn't it? So good. So that's it. So there's that one. And then staying in and around that universe, and we will get to this Puffy story, because I know a lot of the people on our group chat will want to, get our 2 cents on that. But let's go into this, which is Louis Vuitton. Oh, dude, how does this Notion shit work? I didn't make okay, there we go. Boom. So Louis Vuitton has now announced that the first ever Louis Vuitton hotel is coming to Paris. The article here on Architectural Digest says that the views will be stunning. What have you read up on this?
Not enough, actually. I know you were saying earlier about kind of so in early November, the company announced plans that the hotel will be LV Dream, a 1-year and pop-up like experiential space, which include an exhibition highlighting various collaborations with artists, a cafe, a gift shop, and a chocolate shop. So it's not like it's a hotel, but it's got much more kind of experiential vibes to it. And they said it's a 1-year and pop-up like experiential space. So it doesn't look like it's a permanent spot.
Okay, so good, great, perfect. So I spent a bit of time in the hospitality industry, as you know, a few years, and this is really, really crazy. I don't know if I ever told you this, right? But I met Maceo from De La Soul at a private party with Dave Chappelle and Donnell Rawlings and a few others, Beverly Knight and all these other folks. And these guys showed up. De La Soul showed up as a surprise. And then I had a bit of a chat with Maceo. I was like, hey, listen, like, would you ever consider doing like a hotel takeover where you go and stay in that hotel? Everybody who comes and stays in that hotel, it's an exclusive buyout of the hotel. People get an exclusive De La Soul like gift pack. You get to do dinners, meet and greets, private concert, etc., etc. And you talk to rappers, and sometimes they're interested, sometimes they're not, simply, and sometimes they are interested. They've not got the execution capabilities, or sometimes it just falls on deaf ears. But this idea of a hotel pop-up is really, really interesting, because firstly, that means that they are probably only going to need to, their investment is going to be limited. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're not going to have to like maybe even buy this hotel. Another thing that's going to be incredible is that hotel it probably is not going to have the same like price dynamics as a normal hotel, which is your average daily room rate. You're not going to see it on booking.com. What you probably will see in there is a bunch of high net worth and ultra high net worth individuals getting guest nights free of charge. So if you're the prince or the king or a queen of a country, you know you're going to be invited to that hotel to stay free of charge. You know what I mean? It's going to be an incredible, when we talk about experiential, I'm sure lots of fans of Louis Vuitton are getting excited because they're like, I like to buy, I like to collect, and maybe I can go and stay there. But I'm telling you, it's not really going to be for you. It's going to be for the GMs and the people that are running that business to kind of entertain people. Effectively, it's just going to be like a shop, but without a shop. That's what I think. And if it's only a 1 year pop-up like experience as well, they've also put some time boundaries on it, which means that you're going to have only a limited supply of how many nights are going to be available there across the rooms, cafes, and other offerings across F&B. I wonder
they bake in scarcity, as they do with their other products. They bake in scarcity into this experience, right? But they are talking about putting a hotel up in 5 years, within 5 years. So they're going to actually move into this. So this is probably just their testing ground to figure out, okay, how does it work? What do they want to do? Do they want to do traditional hotel? Do they want to do more experiential, somewhere in between? So this will be their like little testing ground with a lower investment. So this is interesting because, you know, as you quite rightly said, you know, it's a premium brand, and, you know, one of the most successful premium brands out there. And to move into this space, I'm sure it's going to knock a few other hospitality brands for, you know, they're going to shake them a little bit, because that takes away some of the customers from the high end, because they're getting more than just a hotel. They're getting
only in Paris.
Only in Paris, yeah. Sure.
So it's
only
like
Paris,
I don't think it'll even have a micro fraction of a percentage impact on what's going on, because all that will happen is, you know, France is always going to have like really, really good customers going there, like Paris specifically. I think what's going to happen is you're going to get certain people that are going there being like, you know, I've done it. That kind of customer is probably going to be quite keen on posting or sharing in their like limited societies that they've done it. And it's 5 years away, so they've got lots of time to build buzz and test different things. But what I'd be interested to see is, does anybody else then venture into that space, and do they do it in less time? Because 5 years is still quite a way away, especially for a property that they're not building brick by brick. And they've also probably done this in alliance or with allegiance with like whatever the city council is of Paris. So I'm sure for them it's going to be great for tourism. You know, I was in Zanzibar recently, and although I didn't go into the Freddie Mercury Museum, you just realize how many people just want to take a picture outside it.
Yeah.
And when we were in Miami, do you remember there was who's your man who got killed there? Versace's mansion. You know, you don't necessarily want to go in. I don't think you could go in when we were there last, but you know, you just want to take a picture outside the Versace gate, right? Like, yo, I'm here.
Yeah. People want to do that. And actually, what's interesting is like the individuals that won't be able to maybe necessarily go to the hotel and stay or experience it will do that. Will take the picture when they go to Paris. It will just become a landmark, like the Eiffel Tower, like the Arc de Triomphe, like anything else.
Yeah, I agree. That's probably what it's going to be. Yeah. So it's just another landmark move. Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see branding. That. Yeah, I've not been to Paris yet. Have you been?
Yeah, I've been, I don't know, like 3 or 4 times, but many years ago. I haven't been for probably about 25 years.
And is it any good? Some people swear by it. Most people I've spoke to say it's pretty shitty, but I need to go see it myself.
Nah, you know what it is? It's kind of like it's its own little world. Like Paris, just even inside of France, it's its own little world. It's its own little microculture. And you know, the Parisians are just Parisians. They're not French almost.
Yeah.
But you know, the city's beautiful. The architecture is amazing. The food's great. You know, and the people are just the people. They're okay. You know, it's fine. But it's a beautiful place to visit. It's definitely worth going to. There's no doubt in my mind. Like Paris is not a place where you'd be like, oh, maybe I'll go, maybe I won't. Paris is a major cosmopolitan city in the world. Like it's one of the leading cities in the world. So like you would want to go to London, New York, Milan, Paris is on the list, right? So, but I'd go if I were you, for sure.
Nice. I'll hit it up next year. Cool. Heading up on the next stories. Let's get into the Puffy story. So in classic Puffy fashion, as was announced on Instagram, Puff is now getting into dark liquor, which is, he is now coming up with a cognac that he says tastes way better than Hennessy. And also in classic rapper form, he wrote takes way better than Hennessy on his Instagram rather than tastes. And, we've got nearly 55,000 likes on this, and nobody said, yo, bro, you might want to update your spelling. So yeah,
you might want to install Grammarly.
Yeah, exactly. Looks like a good move. I don't know if Ciroc is the brand that he has a little bit of ownership of. I know he's got more ownership of like Deleon and other things like that, but it's looking to me like it looks to me like this is going to be a good move. The bottle is really nice. I'm looking at the bottle right now on his Instagram. Obviously, it's a brown liquor, see-through glass, and then a really nice kind of like almost like burnt caramel kind of like cork, like as in the cap that sits on top of the cork. It's a pretty good looking bottle, man. And a lot of cognacs, a lot of like VSOPs and stuff, they're kind of like shorter and fatter, right? That's how they typically come out. Even you look at like Louis and stuff like that. So yeah, this is pretty good, man. I can see this. Like, I just I've been off brown liquor for a while, man. Like,
yeah, me too.
It's not my drink of choice anymore.
This is going to be a success no matter what. And what's interesting, I was trying to think, why is he not giving it another name? Like, it's still Ciroc, right?
That's a good point. It's just called Ciroc VS.
Yeah. So I was thinking, like, why? It's just a simple, easy move into the market without having to like, okay, here's another name, here's another brand, here's a different type of design, all of that kind of stuff that comes with a new name or a new product line. You have to then kind of go through the whole process from the ground up. He basically just goes in from the top, like, there's already a brand, I'm just piggybacking off it, and here you go. And the best thing about this whole thing is the way he's presented it. He's just like, here's a couple of bottles, guys, this is better than Hennessy, try it, I'm gonna win, trust me on this.
Competition is good.
Competition is good, it's all good, but I'm here to win. And he's just very brazen about it. He's just puffy.
Yeah,
so,
and he taps the bottles where he goes, Hennessy, come out and play, like he did on that classic Craig Mack Flavor New Year remix. And also, I'm looking at this on the screen right now. I don't know if you can see it. Maybe if I can do a share screen, if I can pull this off.
I'm watching it
in
now,
the time that it happens. Hold up. Let's see, share screen. Look, the pack shot at the end. If you're watching the video version of this on Spotify or YouTube, you might have just seen it for like 2 seconds. But the pack shot at the end, pack shot for those listening, is the actual image of the actual product with any branding around it or labeling around it. Has actually got fingerprints on it.
Oh, has it? I didn't know.
Yeah, the hero image at the end. You'll see it roll up in a second. But it's actually got like grimy ass, like, in your fingerprints, you got like oil and like just that nastiness. Have a look at it. You'll see it in a second. And I'll just keep filling in this time until you see it. Tell me if you see it. Like,
I can see it when he's holding it. Definitely.
Yeah, of course, when he's holding it. But then you'd think the pack shot or the hero shot is done in a studio. And it has been, but it just looks like someone just grabbed it off like the shelf at Tesco and then shoved it on a stand.
Just took the bottles that he was holding, right?
Yeah. Tell me when you see it.
Yeah, it's coming up now. It's going to come up now.
Okay.
Oh my God, I see it. That's
disgusting,
mad.
Right?
All down the side and one front and center. That's
disgusting. Who wants that? That's horrible. So
that was well noticed, man. But look, I think it will do well. It's just gonna ride off the back of normal Ciroc, and he'll just keep going, killing it. Like, you can never count Puffy out. Do you know what I mean?
You can never really get bet against Puff. And it's really interesting in a world of, we'll talk about this on Out and About, because we met Rashad from Earn Your Leisure. But I'm like, I know we ran out of time with him. We had to get to another meeting. But one of the questions I was going to ask him is, I was like, we have certain billionaires like Puff, like Dre, like Hove, and a handful of others. But it's funny how hip hop people, they are considered billionaires when they've got $1 billion in cash. Whereas the reason that most people are considered like billionaires is because they own an asset worth over $1 billion.
Values, yeah.
So if you look at like somebody who owns a startup, once they've raised a certain amount of finance, then that company is valued at over $1 billion. And then people consider the majority shareholder of that company, typically the founder, over a billionaire. But it's not cash billions. It's not liquid billions. So to me, like OVO, for example, Drake's label, has to be a unicorn company. But we don't talk about Drake the same way that we talk about the CEO of Snapchat. But they both own a property that's worth over $1 billion, whether it be the brand value, the intellectual property, merch, ticket sales and touring, music, streaming. It's just very, very strange to me. I was actually going to speak to Rashad about this, but do you not find that a little bit weird that there's almost like, to be a billionaire, if you're like a mainstream or non-black CEO, it's just, is your company worth over $1 billion? And do you own enough of it so that the percentage, let's say your company's worth 5 billion and you own 25% of it, then your share is 1.25 billion. Now you're considered a billionaire. Whereas when it comes to these other guys, it's got to be like $1 billion in cash.
No, you know what? I just never thought of that, but it's a very good point.
Weird, right?
And, yeah, well, and here's the other thing, right? Actually, when you really think about that, yeah, that's a really good point. And then anyone that has $1 billion in cash, essentially, is a true billionaire, because you're only doing the other way of doing it is against a valuation. And valuation is, it kind of doesn't mean anything half the time, right? It's just
it depends on the depends on the liquidability of the valuation. So if your company is worth 10 billion, and there's always, whether it be on the open market like on NASDAQ, or whether it be on the secondary market, that somebody is always there waiting with a $2 billion check to buy yours, then yeah, you don't have it, but it's a liquid asset. It's something that you can liquidate nice and quickly, which means effectively you can have that money. If it's an illiquid asset, which means that, you've got shares, but you're not allowed to sell them for the first, whatever your structured deal is, then it's an illiquid asset, which means that you're effectively not a cash billionaire, nor do you have the option of switching into a cash billionaire, which is when Kanye talks about like losing billions, it's like people are saying, oh, he lost billions. I'm like, well, a lot of the billions that he lost were just on paper. He just lost ownership of a cash generating asset. Yeah. Because you can't lose $1 billion. You can't lose $1 billion. You can't lose several $1 billion in cash, because that's your cash.
Yeah.
He lost a stake in something that was worth multiples of billions.
Yeah. Well, it's cool, man. I think Puffy's great. I just love watching him do his little thing, and the way he came out and announced it. It's just brilliant. I love it. He'll do well. As always, he'll do well. Yep. Good. I love it. We're gonna follow that model very closely, and maybe even end up using it at some point in the future. Okay, good. So next up, keeping it super local here in Dubai, Zomato. Zomato is leaving the delivery space, according to Arabian Business. So for those of you outside Dubai, Zomato is one of the big players here in Dubai that was involved in a huge expansion of delivery apps that certainly exploded even more in the pandemic. And it was really quite popular. And what's interesting about it is that Zomato is kind of like an F&B, like sector specific super app, in the sense that, you can go to stores and you can actually pay with your Zomato app. And the way that they handle the discount is when you get the bill at the store, you type the number on the bill in, let's say it's 100 dirhams. Once you've typed it in, the app discounts it and then takes your payment and then spits out a code. That code is then written on the receipt, and that receipt is considered paid in the restaurant. So it's a micro payment app. The customer gets their discount. Zomato gets its money straight away, and then Zomato will obviously naturally pay out a portion of that to the restaurant. Very, very popular with like Indian and ethnic food brands in the city, and like not fast foods as such, but like places like Galitos. So if like Nando's is like your main kind of like chicken restaurant, Galitos would be like the B player for that. So it's pretty popular. Why do you think they've well, just to clarify, Zomato itself isn't shutting down. It's just the delivery part.
Zomato sorry delivery. If I didn't communicate. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So everything that you said still stands. So the dine-in portion of, or the dine-in business still stands. So Zomato Gold, you can still do the discounts through payments. You can still search for restaurants. It's just a delivery arm. Now, the delivery arm, Zomato Delivery, I think it was called, or words to that effect, was actually owned by Delivery Hero. Delivery Hero is the mother company of many food brands, in particular Talabat. Talabat being the biggest competitor of Zomato here and the biggest competitor of Deliveroo here in terms of food ordering and food delivery. So the Zomato Delivery and Talabat had a partnership that was in I think they had it in like 2019, like a couple of years ago, and apparently that deal has just ended. Like, it's just taken its natural course. If there's anything else going on, I don't know. But yeah, it's just going to be absorbed by Talabat itself rather than anything else. So yeah, Zomato delivery, and quite frankly speaking, I didn't really use Zomato delivery.
I thought it was dope. I used to use it. They used to have some wicked offers on there. So basically, what you're telling me is if they're both owned by Delivery Hero, then this is very clear to me now, which is that it's just a it's just portfolio consolidation.
That's it. It's just being absorbed.
Yeah. Whoever the owner of the company is like, why are we running separate billboards, separate social media ads for two apps that we own that point back to food companies that we don't own? So they both point back to the same Nando's, or they both point back to the same Pizza Express. They're middlemen, they're aggregators. If they just shut down Zomato, move all that attention over to Talabat, firstly, that revenue is just going to transfer over. But what's going to happen to the owner of the portfolio, as in you essentially own your own two competition, is that your cost base is going to go down, because now you're not like capexing the advertising costs of two delivery apps that basically do the same things. So they've just made it simpler.
Yeah, exactly. There'll be some job losses, I'm sure, as well. But I think what had happened was, if you remember a few years ago, Zomato was the golden child. Everyone used Zomato for delivery. And then you have Deliveroo and Talabat coming in and taking market share. So I think, with Delivery Hero, and I don't know this is a fact, but what I'd have to assume is that Delivery Hero said, okay, well, let's own Zomato delivery to be able to get access to the restaurants and the customer base and the user base. And then eventually we'll absorb it into our main brand, which is Talabat. And I think that's just effectively what's happened, because Zomato was like the number one player a few years ago.
Yeah,
like,
but Zomato's got a lot of that like big Indian energy to it. Do you know what I mean? Like that South Asian, that's a lot of them restaurants on there, because they're not the most impressive restaurants. You'll get a few that you recognize here and there, but mostly it's like dosa and chaat, and Vic was talking about chaat before. It's kind of like these are kind of like street food items that you get. Do you know what I mean? So Zomato wasn't necessarily known for like fly premium restaurants. I actually think that from that perspective, I'll tell you, you're doing a really good job. I think Deliveroo's doing a really good job. Oh, sorry, I moved away from the mic. I think Deliveroo's doing a really good job, because on there you got places like Mr. Beast Burger, and we order from Deliveroo quite a lot, like especially when we're working from the house, and it's like they've got some cool brands on there with like retail brands that you can walk into and eat at, and ghost kitchens.
Actually, so delivery to me is my go-to for food delivery at home, because it's got a couple of things. Number one, I think the restaurant choice is better than on any other platform. Number two, it's a very, 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 very clear UI to me. It's so easy to use.
Yeah, it's a very easy to use app, user interface. Yeah,
so
UI.
Yes, so yeah, user interface is so simple. It's so easy. You click on offers, you click on your cuisine. There's no it's not messy. It's just clean. And I've never had a problem having delivery from Deliveroo. Like, it's just never been an issue. Like maybe once or twice a delay here or there, but whatever. But yeah, I think Deliveroo is the number one for me. But yeah, I think this is just a natural kind of course of the partnership. They had one since 2019, and Zomato delivery has done what it needs to do for Delivery Hero, and they're like, all right, cool, we don't need it anymore, and we've consolidated.
All right, well, farewell. Today is actually the last day that you can order from Zomato. I wonder if they've got any sales on. That might be how I end up eating today. So we'll end up. Well, actually, no, that's not how I'm going to end up eating today. I'm going to come to your house today for dinner.
You're coming to mine for dinner, yeah.
So bye Zomato. Farewell. Would have liked to have done one last little booty call with you, but it's not going to happen. All right, next up, Rishi Sunak meets Zelenskyy. Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister, the brown guy that slipped on through and found him, is like the dude that, like, when you see the VIP section, there's no bouncer there, so you just jump up in there and you get a chance to meet Busta Rhymes.
Done that a few times, yeah.
That's what this guy's done. Yo, how do I click this? Okay, boom. All right, so brilliant. So Rishi Sunak has gone to visit President Zelenskyy in Kiev, and he pledges 50 million in aid. And there you just see a happy brown guy and a happy white guy just hugging it up. Let's have a quick look at this story. You know what we should do as well, Vic? We should just keep it real with like people that are listening, and just be like, yo, we've not actually read some of these stories. We kind of read the news on the podcast, because on weeks like this is the reason why the show's called ALGO, a lot going on, is we have literally had so much going on that we've actually not even posted a podcast last week. And now we're actually reading about this for the first time. Now, what I can say is, what I did see is I saw and I actually don't want to get into all this crap about how many missiles and stuff that they're handing over or whatnot. But what I did see, and what I've noticed about Rishi Sunak, and it's awkward because I'm going to meet the dude at some point, so it's going to be weird. But like, my man's just not a very fluid guy. Yeah. Like, you not notice he's a little bit of a like, da, 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 like, you know what I mean? Like, he's like a little bit of like a mannequin, but with like a human soul in him. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's like, the way he walks, the
Yeah.
way he talks, it doesn't seem genuine. He's always kind of like always leaning slightly forward. And it's like, it's a bit of a, I don't know, man. I feel like the guy needs to just chill a little bit. When I really like Rishi Sunak is when that Keir Starmer, the opposition, like in the UK, you have the Tories and the Labour. When Keir Starmer's going for him, and then Rishi Sunak gets that fire in his belly, that's when I like the dude. But in all these kind of like press bits where he's like, dude was walking his dog the other day. And I was like, bro, Rishi Sunak walking a dog is like you walking a dog. Like Vic's like the worst dog lover in the world. And he just doesn't love dogs, so it doesn't mean he's a bad lover.
Maybe the worst one. I just don't love dogs. Yeah. What's the opposite of a dog lover? Yeah.
Yeah. He's not. Yeah. I mean, anyway, point being is that Rishi Sunak walked out with his wife around Downing Street or whatever, and they had a dog, and they were like, it was so weird because it's almost like me with like children that I don't know. I like pat the child on the head. I'm like, all right, random child. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like friend's child. It's like I'm not naturally connected to these people. Yeah. And it's like when I think him patting his dog, I think maybe he was just trying to appease like Dave the window cleaner. Do you know what I mean? Like your typical like white working class guy by just walking out with a dog, being like, I'm normal.
Well, what's interesting is it's a good observation. So when he's going at war, like he's like, debating and all that kind of stuff, that's what people want to see, because they're like, all right, well, this prime minister has some fire, some gusto, some opinion, is willing to kind of stand their ground and do what needs to be done to make the country right. That kind of sentiment. And when they're in the press, I just don't think he knows how to do it, but he also knows that the world is watching him, particularly the UK citizens, and they're going to criticize him for every move. So he might just be playing it a bit safe, which is why he might come across stiff. Like he's like a wooden kind of weird Hugh Grant type character, like a bit mumbly and a bit fumbly and a bit stiff and a bit this and a bit that.
Yeah.
But it might just be because he just needs to I think he's just on his P's and Q's, man. I think he's just trying to be careful about how he
doesn't want anybody to realize that he's brown.
Yeah.
He's just like, as long as I talk like this and as long as I don't like lean over too far forward and end up in like a Gerba pose where somebody figures out that I'm actually a Hindu, then he should be okay. But listen, I like the guy. I like to see the fact there's a brown guy up there, of course. Yeah. But like, yeah, man, it's just a bit weird. So he's out on his press run, walking dogs, heading over to the Ukraine. But something to watch. And what I will say about these is that some of these stories, we don't get into them because they're just a little bit weird. They're just things that have kind of like come across our desk and end up in our show notes or in our group chat. But what I would say is, and this is what you should be doing anyway, is if you see a story that we like, just go and Google it, go find out more, form your own opinion. Finally, of course, FTX has basically been washed away, one of the biggest scams. I don't know if there's really much that we can share on this that you can't find all online. What I will ask you about the FTX story, rather than get our 2 cents on it, I think there's been people much smarter than us that have spoken about it. But what would you say has been your favorite take, or what's been your favorite news source when it comes to a position on FTX?
You asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you. Yeah.
The All In podcast.
Yes. Oh, dude, that's such a good answer. All In podcast in the last couple of episodes had Brian Armstrong, CEO of Coinbase. Coinbase is the safe darling of crypto. It's been in the market about a decade. It's always played nicely with the US government, always been pro-regulation, always kept its books open and audited. So not a lot of scamming, and they're actually based and registered in the US. So they're not conducting their business out of
the Bahamas.
yeah. Or I mean, let's be quite frank, based on where we live, places where the international jurisdictions, like then the transparency is not necessarily there, right? So they're not doing it out of China or other places like that. So long story short, it was an incredible piece, incredible chat between Brian Armstrong and the team at All In.
Yeah, and what I do like is that they brought Brian Armstrong in rather than just giving their own opinions, and their opinions are well thought out, well educated, well researched, and well knowledged because of who they are. But bringing in someone like Brian Armstrong is a very smart move, because they're showing that there's support for the crypto world. I feel that's a signal that it's support for the crypto world by bringing in someone like Brian Armstrong from a company like Coinbase that is, as you quite rightly said, is regulated and doing the right thing, as it were. So that I think was an interesting collaboration.
Can I ask you a question? What do you remember about the interview? I remember two things now. I wonder if you picked up on them.
Damn, you put me on the spot.
Okay, let me answer it then, so that people aren't waiting. One thing that I noticed about it, which I think you probably liked as well, is that they brought Brian in to answer questions and embellish on what had happened. So it wasn't as if all four of them were giving their opinion and they were like, patting each other's beavers. They actually interviewed Brian Armstrong and asked him, take us behind the curtain on this subject. Take us behind the curtain on this. You've spoken to Sam Bankman-Fried. I think she actually said that he spoke to Sam Bankman-Fried quite recently. Brian Armstrong did. And so I thought that was quite good, is that they it was almost like 4 moderators and 1 panelist. Do you know what I mean? It's like a panel, but reversed.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
So that was very, very dope about it. But what, I don't know if you picked up on this, and I was listening to the podcast with a finance person, and I noticed that at the end, in the back quarter of that chat, Chamath went pretty militant on VCs who he called our brethren that have pumped up certain cryptocurrencies. And he was talking about, you can believe what you want, but he was talking about Solana and he was talking about David Sachs. If you ask me to interpret it, because David Sachs was so pro Solana, going to developer conferences in different countries and talking it up. Solana had a great run. Solana became one of the kind of like darling B blockchains, you know what I mean? So it's like, obviously it's always been like Ethereum and Bitcoin, but as you remember like Polygon and Solana, right? So it's the Matic coin and Sol, and they were like the kind of like the friendly cousins on, coming up, you know what I mean? They were the guys like holding the record boxes for Ethereum. And it was like these have had a terrible time as cryptocurrencies. They've not delivered on their promise. The developer community is not as excited vocally or as vocal as they were a year ago in those communities. And David Sachs was one of the dudes that pumped that up. So I actually felt like, I was like, come on, say it, Chamath, say it. Say to David Sachs, you pumped up Solana and you've either dumped it or got out or whatever. Because David Sachs at one point was an investor in the building of Solana. And at one point, his stake, if I'm not mistaken, this is, I'm not, you should be checking my facts. I'm just trying to draw your attention to certain stuff. But I think he had over $1 billion in Sol.
What? No, I didn't know that. No.
Yeah. I think he put in like 100 million, and I think he turned it into $1 billion. This was at a time where everything was up and to the right. So
valuation.
So no, but obviously not, right? Because you could convert that Sol into fiat, and you could, if you had $1 billion worth of Sol, you could liquidate that to $1 billion worth of fiat. But now obviously the price and everything has kind of like gone down. But yeah, man, I'd like some clarity on that. I'd really like some clarity on, was Chamath basically saying like, yo, like there are people on our phone books, on our group chats that have done these pump and dump schemes.
I mean, then they're not afraid to call each other out, right? So,
but he went so close to the line without saying it. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I interpreted it the way that you did. I don't think I interpreted any other
I was getting hype. I was screaming in the car when he was talking about this. I was like, say it. Say this motherfucker's name. Like, say this is what you did. You know what I mean? But he didn't do it.
So what do you think is going to happen now? What do you think is going to happen with SBF and
I think it's going to be, I think SBF has got, he's still obviously like, he's still DMing with journalists, and he's being a little bit flagrant from that point of view, and him DMing journalists and being like this, that's become its own kind of like secondary news story. But if you were to ask me what's going to happen, I think he's going to become like almost like Pablo Escobar. I think he's going to become like, what do they call it? America's Most Wanted. I think that's what's going to happen. Wow. And I think also as well, like the VCs that were invested, and lots of them were, there was very poor due diligence by all the, if you look at the cap table of FTX, it's the who's who of cryptocurrency, and a lot of them rushed in there, and a lot of them took capital that's been, you know, assigned to their VC firm and invested it in there. So I think it's a big egg on the face moment. I don't think he's going to get much loyalty from people in the venture
I don't
community.
think so. Yeah, I agree.
I think it's like your man from WeWork, but way, 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 way worse.
Oh,
There's like
a billion times worse.
yeah,
Literally.
and there's in regulated markets, if you're running an exchange, and then you own another business which is investing money, you should never be taking money from the exchange. You're taking cash out of one business and putting it into another. People are like, hey, hold on to this money for this crypto. And you go, sure. And then you take that money and invest it in the markets and lose. So what happens with banks, as you know, is that you put your money in a bank and they don't need all the money at once. So they take some of your money and they give other people mortgages. They make money on interest. They give you a slice of the interest, and that's your interest rate. That's your bank interest rate. But when you've got two separate companies in an unregulated market, you're not allowed to do that. Like if you give me 20 quid to hold, and I say I'll hold it for you, I can't then go and buy myself something with that 20 quid. I've got to be able to give that to you whenever you need it. So it's a bit. So I think from that point of view, he's kind of like broken one of the cardinal rules of finance from that perspective, and I think or regulated finance. And so I think it's not going to work out too well for this dude. I also think it also puts a lot of pressure on Coinbase, which they're up for it. They've always welcomed it. They've always leaned their chin forward in the ring to get here and to have that, like, for them, it's always been a high contact sport with the US government. But I think it makes it much more difficult for Binance, Crypto.com, Kraken, even the ones that the two guys that started Facebook, the Winklevoss twins. They own they've got their own big, you know, very successful platform as well. So I think it makes it difficult for those people. And I think they need to be like on high alert. And if I was any of these companies, I would be opening my books to anybody who wants to look inside them. I'd be doing the transparency thing right now.
Assuming that they can, right? Like assuming there's no blowback on what they've been.
So that's a very good point, because there seems to be an artificial delay right now with some of these tier 2 exchanges where they're saying, we're going to open our books to you, but just give me a second. Because the thing that regulators look for, the thing that auditors look for when you open your books is, do you have a US dollar fiat for every US dollar of crypto that you claim to be holding? So if you can't match a dollar of fiat currency, like real currency, for a dollar of crypto, if you can't do what's called a one-to-one match, then effectively, where is that money? Because if you claim to be managing $1 billion worth of crypto, but when you're asked to show the cash that supports that $1 billion and you can only show 900 million, well, where's the 100 million in between? Now I'm coming up with very, you know, it sounds weird and facetious. I'm actually using small numbers here.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm talking about 1 billion versus 900 million. In reality, when you look at what FTX is doing, we're talking about numbers that are north of 10 billion and further. So it's quite risky. There's going to be a lot of people that are upset at him. I wouldn't even be surprised if some people were a little bit more maverick. Let's not talk about, you know, what we mean. If you're a smart guy, you know what I mean. But I wouldn't be surprised if some people really had a vengeance against this guy and are prepared to like decide what form that vengeance takes. It's very bad. This is big, huge. I mean, the guy who audited Enron said this is bigger than the Enron scandal.
Yes, yeah, he did. He so said it's massive.
It's real.
It's funny you talk about, like, we'll show you the books, but just give us a bit of time. It's like, you know, when you're out with some friends and you say, oh yeah, come home, and then you rush home before them to clean up before they come into the door.
Yeah, that's my everyday.
Like
yeah
it's kind of like that. But what's also interesting as well, like in terms of you know, if he then ends up facing the music, there's going to be a lot of pressure on making sure that they make an example of him in terms of like jail time or whatever, because, you know, Elizabeth Holmes just got convicted
11 years. Yeah.
So on the back of that, that's nothing compared to this guy, right? Like nothing. So that's almost a benchmark, like a minimum benchmark. You know, Madoff went away for God knows how many years as well. So now these benchmarks, these precedents have been set. So if there's an opportunity where he has to then face the courts and face any kind of real kind of conviction, then they've got to be looking at these other cases that have just happened. Elizabeth Holmes was like last week, right? They've got to be looking at that as some kind of precedent on how to like penalize him. But I don't know if it's ever going to get to that.
You know what this is? So bringing, like, triangulating this with the Elizabeth Holmes case is very, very interesting, because I was thinking to myself, okay, yeah, this is the time where justice will be served. And you just used the term making an example of this era that we're about to go into from 2023 until at least 2025, 2026. But then if you zoom out, we're still going to fundamentally be in a different decade or a different 2 decades moving forward. This, my friend, is the return of the market. The market doesn't just, it doesn't just play with valuations or supply demand, consumer demand. The market is jails jailing you if you've been like a significantly bad actor. Like if you've lied to the market and got people riled up, whether you've raised money or you've got retail investors or even retail consumers to go and buy your dodgy sneaker, the market's like, okay, you guys have had a hell of a run for the last 14 years. Whoever's meant to be going to jail is about to go to jail. And whoever's going to make silly mistakes, we're not going to let you out of it. Elon could have made this purchase of Twitter pre-pandemic and it would have probably worked out, But now the market is like coming for every single person. Zuckerberg gets excited, deploys maybe $10 billion worth of annual capital into, or 100 billion, I don't know how much it is, but a crazy amount of money into the metaverse. The market's not letting him off. The market's not going to let Elon off. The market's not going to let anybody off now, whether it means jail, whether it means bankruptcy. It's coming for everyone because the market's been asleep and everyone's been poking it. And every time people poke the market, little gold coins would come out like a Mario game. And people didn't realize that you're robbing something that's asleep because there's quantitative easing. We had all this issue with the pandemic. We had the growth of the internet, the spread of mobile phones, e-commerce. It's been a good time. And now that the good times are ending, the market's going to come back and thunderslap every single bad actor, every cocky actor like Elon. Everyone's going to get served because no one's above making that fundamental mistake.
Well, also to add on to that, it's a very, very good point. But to add on to that, like you go, okay, well, a number of years ago, ordinary people were unable to participate. But because of the pandemic and because of mobile phones and because of, the ability to participate in the market, everyone did, or a lot of people did. And a lot of people made a crap ton of money. A lot of people lost, but a lot of people made a lot of money. But these bad actors are now causing harm to your average person, like you're just your individuals, your retail Joes.
Yeah.
So that, and as a result, it's not the institutions that are getting hurt and then they are therefore protected. It's the individual average person that went through a pandemic, tried to bounce back, and then got hit with a recession. So this example, hitting them with 11 years or hitting them with however many years or whatever kind of fine or whatever it is, it's going to be amplified because now there's public perception. Now there's the people are getting affected. So the kind of the lawmakers and the people that make the decisions on how people get, penalized, they're under more pressure as well.
And never mind job losses, right? In tech.
Job losses, the whole lot, everything. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Alex and I spoke about this in the last podcast. Like the average loss at the moment as a percentage of, somewhere between 11 and 14% in large tech or established tech companies. That means different things to different companies. 11% in a Stripe is not the same as an 11% in a Facebook, because we're talking about much larger companies with obviously a very, very different product mix, because Stripe is essentially a pipe and Facebook is a lot of different things. It's going to mean a lot of people are going to be entering the market. And we saw this in 2008. And personally, I'm excited about it. I'm excited about all the people that are like, you know what? I got a pretty decent severance leaving Stripe. I got a pretty decent severance leaving Twitter. Got a pretty decent severance leaving Facebook. I might just take I might take a couple of months out and I might start my own thing. And that own thing could be anything from like a home-based vegan bakery where you just deliver within a 3-mile radius of your house, right through to the next Stripe. Because a lot of stuff was born out of the last recession. I used to say, I spoke about this in lectures before, like one of the best things to happen to the tech industry was the last recession, because a lot of people lost their jobs. But really what happened, which was really interesting, is that all of the people in the banking world that lost their jobs, a lot of them called them classically trained business people, were absorbed by the tech industry. Because there was a vacuum in tech. Tech was well-funded. Facebook, all these companies were receiving billions of dollars of venture capital, and they needed a proper operations manager. They're not going to find one on Zuckerberg's phone book, somebody he went to uni with. They want seasoned veterans. And where's a great place to get an operations manager? Ex-Barclays, ex-Lehman, ex-Goldman. Do you know what I mean? So we're going to now see a lot of startups being like, you know what? Like, you know, one of our friends that we were hanging out with last night, who's a very interesting entrepreneur, he might actually have access to an ex-Amazon person or an ex-Uber person here in the Middle East in the next 3 months.
At a discount.
At a discount. Or I mean, there's not much to discount, but you know, he might even have a discounted equity option.
Sure. Yeah. Could be anything.
So something to watch. Should we move on from stories? I think we've hit every story we wanted to hit.
Pretty much, yeah. Let's hit out and about, because there's a lot to go through there, and let's go through out and about. Yeah.
So the only way to do this, you know, if I try to do this at a normal pace, it's not going to work. So I'm actually going to artificially speed the pace up of this out and about in Dubai, because we've had busy out and abouts in Dubai before, but we kind of tend to like go into a lot of detail. I'm just going to summarize it like this. Last week, I took a few days off here in Dubai, and, you know, going overseas and holidaying and all that hasn't been an option. Quite frankly, I don't want to do it because I did it too much this year. So I kind of did like a Dubai-based holiday where I was just kind of like, you know, just kind of enjoying my city type thing. And so that meant eating out in a bunch of places. And I want to give these places a shout out, because I really feel like my last week out and about in Dubai really made me fall in love with what's exceptional about this city. Firstly, places to eat and drink. This city, every restaurant in this city is in every, yeah, okay, let me get this. Let me try and frame my thoughts here so I can say it so that it makes sense. Every restaurant in Dubai is in an abusive relationship with 4 to 5 restaurants that are the gold standard. And I went to a lot of them last week, and some of them I didn't go to, but I'm going to give them a shout out as well. Number one, some of the best food you can get in Dubai, if you're a meat eater, is a place called Meatish. It's in Motor City at Neighborhood Food Hall. It's like a food hall. It's like Time Out Market, but I don't know, 1/40th the size and super ghetto. The food is incredible. They've got every single restaurant in there is top class. We're talking about High Joint on the burger side. We're talking about Los Hermanos on the Mexican side. Shout out to Isaac. But the food at Meatish is outstanding. Next up, I went to Tasha's last week, the original one at Galleria Mall. I don't know. This is one of the first places my sister took me to when I first moved to the country. I don't know how they do what they do at the level that they do it. I have no idea. When you put your cutlery down on the plate, the cutlery is perfectly balanced. It's none of those awkward moments where the cutlery does like a bungee jump off the plate. You know, if you like place it in the wrong way or whatever, and it's just super awkward, and you end up with food on you. The uniforms, the service, you know, Tasha's is not cheap. It's not cheap at all, but they deliver. If they charge you, you can best believe that number that they're charging you for those dishes, you're going to get a dish that's worth that. It's just incredible. Next up, I went to Around the Block a couple of days ago. They're smashing it over in Al Wasl. I went to Bombay Bungalow over in JBR. They also own Musti, and they own Blue Seafood Asia, and they own that fish restaurant over there in La Vista Mare. What's it called?
Ibn Al Bahar.
That's the only 4 restaurants that I know of. Shout out to Karan and all the team over there. But those guys don't miss. They are incredible restaurateurs. I've been to all of their restaurants and eaten a lot of food in all of them, and every single one they smashed it. But if you like curry the way that British Indians like curry, you have to go to Bombay Bungalow. And then a few other shouts as well. Shout out to 6 Board Game Cafe over here in downtown on the Boulevard. Super dope. Went down there, played some board games for a little bit. Shout out to Raw Coffee, that, like Tasha's, when I first came here, I've been going to Raw Coffee for a decade. I don't know however long they've been around. They continue to smash it. And shout out to Al Halab in Dubai Mall. The food actually no longer looks like the pictures, unfortunately. So they're slipping a bit there. But the quality of the food and the quality of service is good. Also last week, I went jet skiing. So shout out to Ride in Dubai, Roland and all of our friends over there. Yo, I've been jet skiing with other people. Like, you know, you go to other Emirates and you jump on jet skis and whatnot. They're whack. The jet skis are like Elon jet skis over at Ride in Dubai. You've ridden them, right?
Yeah, they're amazing. Yeah,
They're
they're amazing.
beautiful. Like all their stuff is big. Every time you get, I feel like every time you go to ride in Dubai, their jet skis are basically just brand new. They're like almost like
Mm.
zero mileage. Do you know what I mean? Like, and they ride perfectly. I actually went out on a crazy day where the waves were super high and actually was catching air a lot. So I wasn't able to kind of like get the speed that I wanted to get, but it was good time. And also a pro tip for people coming to Dubai right now: will run you about 100 dirhams, or not very much. Check out on Instagram a place called CC Water Sports. They've got these see-through kayaks made out of plastic, so you can go out there, two people kayaking, and then you can see through the bottom of the kayak into the ocean. It's really, really good over in Jumeirah, cheap, good fun. We were just talking as well, right, Vic, about like maybe we should just go out there as a family and take in it. It'd be a nice little vibe.
Yeah, for sure, man. It'd be a nice little thing. Also, I saw something the other day called Seacraft, which is like a 4-person sea boat, like a little speedboat that you can drive yourself.
Oh,
And
word,
kids go
really?
on it. I'll send you the link. Yeah, I want to check that out as well. I think it's like I think it's like 450, no, 600 dirhams for 1 hour. And you can get 4 people on the boat and ride it yourself. And there's like a safety boat that rides along with you. It
Motorized
looks pretty
engine?
awesome. Yeah, like a little speedboat. It looks awesome.
Okay,
Tiny
so it's
little
a
thing.
speedboat, 4 people. You can get 2 on a jet ski, and a jet ski will run you, what does a jet ski run you? About 280. So 2 jet skis for half an hour each will run you basically 600. So you're talking about an hour in a
Yeah,
four
so
person.
it's
That's
45
not
minutes of
insane.
ride time, 15 minutes of like the safety and all that kind of stuff, and then
Yeah.
45 minutes of like ride time. I just seen it online. I saw it the other day. I was supposed to send it to you. It looks awesome. It looks really good.
Maybe
Yeah.
heading into the holiday season, maybe before you travel, we should try and do that. I
Yeah.
also want to give a shout out as well to, 2 people that I've got a lot of time for. They say that your friends are the people that pester you to hang out, knowing that you can't. So Millie and Kyle are always reaching out, being like, yo, come home, come eat, do this kind of stuff. I really love them both as a couple. Congratulations. We gave them a shout out on a previous episode. But they got married over in Ras Al Khaimah, I think it was. The illest wedding, like so good, basically turned into a rave. Cool people, Leicester people, like London people. By the way, there's still something in the water in Leicester. Like one of the main factories where the most beautiful Indian women in the world are manufactured is still Leicester, because when I went there, everybody at their wedding looked like a model. It was like incredible. So shout out to them. They had a wonderful wedding. Wish you many, many years of like happiness. Also, by the way, in Ras Al Khaimah, they have like a super church, because our man Kyle is Christian, one of those like Christian Indian cats. And there was this dope, like huge church with like, full audio and like, screens and people like, yeah. So it was such a good time. It was over 3 days. Unfortunately, I could only hit day 1 and day 3 because, as you know, in the middle, we had a pretty big meeting. So I had the best time. So I wanted to just kind of give them all my love. And it was Millie's birthday as well yesterday. So shout out to her. And speaking of birthdays.
Yeah, it was Shayla's birthday on the 12th. So I'm only 11 days late, which is which is good. But I wasn't recording last week. Yeah, so Shayla's birthday on the 12th. Saturday, her parents, as I mentioned earlier, my in-laws are in town. So we had just a little thing at home for that. So happy birthday. Happy super belated birthday, Shayla.
Yeah. Hanging out with your in-laws is just too great, man.
It's cool, man.
Especially your father-in-law is like, it's just the best.
Yeah,
So,
it's great. It's great. It's actually really great having them in the house. They're here for a month.
Yeah.
But it's great having them in the house. Like the energy is really good. Everyone's really happy. Shayla's obviously happy to see them. Ine's like over the moon to be with his grandparents.
Yeah.
So the vibe is really nice in the house. You know what I mean?
Yeah, nice. Looking forward to experiencing it in a few hours, and then we'll wrap up with some content that we've been enjoying.
No, hold on. So just one more thing.
Oh, go ahead.
We went to PodFest on Monday.
Oh, yo. Actually, no, we didn't even finish all this. Okay, so yeah, my bad. PodFest on Monday. Big shout out to Dubai Press Club, which is a organization that sits under the Dubai government. They did something called PodFest, where they brought together people in the podcasting ecosystem at their wonderful offices, north of Sheikh Zayed World Trade Center. Want to give a triple big shout out to Mariam, who's just so cool, so dope, like really friendly, cool person, really easy to like work, like to kind of like connect with. We had a cool chat, connected on WhatsApp. She invited both of us down. We got to check out some wicked panels. We got to see our friend Anas Bukash from AB Talks. Shout out to him and his podcast. It's kind of like you know, it's a two-person or, you know, three-person interview. He's the main interviewer, fireside format, speaks to a lot of like influential cats in the Middle East, like Arabian stars of screen, sports, things like that. So it's nice to link up with him. When he got off stage, we kind of like dapped it up and had a quick chat. And of course, our friends Dukkan were in the building as well. Didn't really get a chance to chop it up as much with Akawi and OT. OT is my man anyway. I ring him on just for no reason. But also really nice to catch up with Reem as well. And I don't know how I forgot this. I didn't forget it, but man, Reem is a savage. Reem will just cut your head off. Like, she is one of the smartest people in media in this city. Like, you know, and you actually got to see what one of mine and Reem's little kind of like nano dates is like. We see each other, you're right, did health good, did I love people like this. And then for the next 43.5 minutes, it was just like work, insight, trends, market. She is a killer. Like, really
hit you with so much game, and it was almost like rapid fire game. She was just like, right, this is what's going on, this is what we're doing, this is how it's happening, this is what's happening in these markets, and you're like, all right, cool. And you could just hit it with as many questions and she'll just like fire back the answer without even thinking about it. Like, it's almost second nature to her.
You know what I would pay for? I'd pay for a month. I'd pay a decent amount of money for a 60 to 90 minute, like 50 to 80 minute a month market summary from her. Just audio.
Yeah, that would work.
Here's the trends. Here's what's happening in Egypt. Here's what's happening in Saudi Arabia. Here's what's happening in Qatar. Here's what's happening in, you know, the wider GCC. Here's some of the big challenges that brands are having at a core DNA level when it comes to entering this region, because that's what our conversation was about.
Yeah.
And she's such a badass. So like, big up to her. I really do hope that we get a chance to kick it with her at some point in the next, you know, couple of months. We don't see each other that often, but yeah, but if you get a chance, then I think her Instagram is Auntie Reem. And Reem, I'm going to send this to her actually, but start spitting some business content, because that is, the hustlers love it. You know what I mean? So big up to her. And then we want to give a big shout out to our friend Fat Man Scoop for introducing us to Rashad. Rashad is one half of this incredible media duo called Earn Your Leisure that were here in town for Steve Harvey's golf tournament with a bunch of other folks. They were over in Abu Dhabi. Rashad came over we got a little bit of notice, not much, that he was coming over to Dubai. We went and kicked it with him for an hour. And I mean, what a brilliant dude, man. Your first, well, I mean, me and him have texted before, but both of our first times meeting him, do you follow his content online?
Yeah, of course, man. I follow Earn Your Leisure online.
Brilliant.
I've always liked, I mean, listen, you know, we pride ourselves on being quite early on certain people, and I'd say we're still early on Earn Your Leisure. As big as they are, we're still early on them, because they haven't even touched the tip of the iceberg as to kind of where they could, how huge they can be, and they're already doing massive things. So Earn Your Leisure is essentially two guys that teach you about financial literacy effectively. Let's just, like, in its most basic form. But they've evolved that into not just the podcast, but they've evolved that into a couple of brands. They've evolved that into a university, into live events. So there's a number of things in their portfolio. They've got
7 media properties. So it's got Earn Your Leisure, Market Mondays, and 5 others. Yeah.
I really liked Rashad. I think he was super smart, super intelligent, very, 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 very humble, like super humble.
Yeah, literally,
like just so
it's just like hanging out with one of your cousins,
right? Yeah, exactly. And also really like curious and inquisitive about like Dubai and this market and what's going on. But yeah, just a nice guy, man. And I think everyone that listens to this podcast, or we send this to, should really, really check out Earn Your Leisure. I think you'll be doing yourself a disservice if you don't.
Yeah, I remember we walked out of there and I was like, and he's not as loud and bold and bubbly and spicy as like a Gary Vaynerchuk, but a star is a star. But I remember we walked out of there, we were waiting for the valet. I was like, do you remember meeting Gary when he was that guy, when he was Rashad? Like, do you know what I mean? Like when we first started hanging out with Gary in, I don't know, 08 or 09, something like that, you're literally just sat with a dude that isn't really being bothered by anybody. He's not got the fame yet, like globally. But he's important. He's special. And it's a shame we didn't really get a chance to meet his man as well, his partner. But Troy, right?
Troy, yeah, Troy.
I'd love to have observed the chemistry between them, because I've always had like a soft spot for duos, right? Like whether it be DJ duos or like look at Ray and Ghost, and just guys that like roll with each other over the long term, because it's not easy to do. And to be honest, there's no formula to it. Me and you have been working together for a long time, and you can't say here's how you do it. To be honest, it's luck. You're either going to be able to work with somebody long term or you're not. There's no like I do this for him, he does that for, like, there's no, it's not transactional. It's basically like the universe either allows it or it doesn't. And so it's like it was really, really dope to have that moment with him. And we spoke about this with him. He's on a collision course with Dubai, or like Earn Your Leisure as a brand is on a collision course with Dubai. They are going to be doing meetups here at some point in the next year, because what they're doing is just too big, too impactful, too powerful. I mean, just to give the listeners that have not heard of this brand before some idea of scale, they've had full-size conferences, big stages with Shaq, with Steve Harvey. I mean, elite level business people. Now, their financial literacy is aimed and framed towards Black America as its core. Obviously, anybody can benefit from it worldwide, Black or otherwise, American or otherwise. But it's just a phenomenal thing, and I can just imagine them. I can imagine them doing something of that scale here at some point. And it's funny because we're talking to one of our other friends, one of our legacy friends, right? About Abu Dhabi's willingness to even get ahead of Dubai when it comes to bringing over like franchises. And I think what Abu Dhabi is doing really well, and what the UAE does really well, is they do really, really well at established. It's not unusual to have Mariah Carey come here, or 50 Cent, like established, or the WWE, or say whatever you want.
UFC, all of that,
Well, I don't think they've got what they've not calibrated yet is how to identify Gary Vaynerchuk 2009 the way that we did, how to identify Russell Peters 2005 the way that we did, or 4-3. And I think if you really wanted to smash it and say, we were early, I think over here, large entities, large brands, maybe quasi-government would be smart to support these dudes, because they are super brilliant. I'm very bullish on them.
Yeah, no, me too. I agree. And they're like doing thousands of seats, and like
Madison Square Garden this Sunday.
They're doing Madison Square Garden. I think they're doing the Hulu Theater, which is around 6,000 seats. And undoubtedly it'd be sold out. They did like 12,000 with Steve Harvey. That last interview that they did, that was 12,000 people, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But that's on Sunday, so good luck for that. To the Earn Your Leisure team. But yeah, definitely anyone that's listening, please go check out Earn Your Leisure.
And also, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it. That's it. They've got to check it out.
Yeah, and also I'm glad we got this written down as well. Dubai Press Club, some folks that we met there as well, not just Anas Bukash and our Dukkan gang, but also Maze Mohammed, who we met through Spencer and Tony Robbins. Bara, let me get her name right. So I mean, I don't want to us having complicated names as well. I don't like it when my name isn't, when no effort's put in to say my name properly. So I want to
Bara El Sabag.
Yeah, Sabag or Sabag. That's Sabag. I don't know how you say it, but she's super dope. She's down with Adidas, and she's also expecting as well. So congratulations to her and her partner. So there were some of the cool folks that we met down there on the day. Okay, let's do content recommendations real quick. Goes without saying, you don't need our review. You just need our recommendation. Go check out Nas, King's Disease 3. I don't know how this guy's done it, but it's the 4th album in 2 years. King's Disease 1, 2, Magic, and this. It's brilliant. I did get round to Neal Brennan, as you recommended. The name of the show is?
It's his second special on Netflix. It's called Blocks.
Blocks.
It's not your traditional stand-up comedy special. It's more like a one-man show with comedy and serious parts in it. But Neal Brennan, in my opinion, is one of the best comedy writers out there, and probably one of the most underrated like comic acts, whether that be writing or on stage or whatever there is outside of his industry. Everyone in the industry respects him very, very highly.
Yeah,
definitely watch Neal Brennan Blocks. And if you haven't seen Three Mics, his first one, watch that as well.
Yeah, and I was actually listening to his, and there was times where I wasn't able to look at the screen, so I'd just be streaming it around the house. And what I noticed about this stand-up special is it's as good in audio as it is in visual form, but the visual form, his physical delivery is exceptional. And actually, when you're not watching the physical delivery, I've probably only seen about half of it. I've heard the whole thing. but I was only able to look at the screen at certain points. But the bits that I saw, the physical delivery was good. And what I will say is, in the absence of physical delivery, just listening to the way he delivers with his voice was incredible. So actually, I'll probably listen to it 2 more times. I'll probably do it 1 time straight watching it. No, the next time I'll probably do audio only. And the time after that, I'll do it audio and visual. I think you can watch this special 3 times and enjoy it every single time. So big up to Neal, Brennan.
One more thing on that. Sorry, I heard him on Joe Rogan, interview on Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And they're talking about deep fake. And apparently there's a few seconds, I think it's either 6 seconds or 12 seconds of this special that is deep fake because they didn't get what they needed, and it's deep fake.
Oh, wow.
Apparently, yeah. I don't know which part or whatever. I need to relook at it and see.
I know I'm not thinking about the same part, but I either dreamt that or I thought it. It's so weird.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. So I guarantee the moment it is not the moment I saw. And then finally coming up with the content recommendations. We spoke about this a while ago. We weren't able to say what it was, but Ali Abdaal has a show called Deep Dive with Ali Abdaal. It's on YouTube, and he's had Daniel Priestley on there. We talked about Daniel before. Neither of us have seen the interview. Came out 5 days ago. About 14,000 plays already. The comments are incredible. We thought we'd go through some of the comments before we've seen the content, but just trust me, go find that. Ali Abdaal, Daniel Priestley. I'm sure it's going to be a killer piece like Daniel's was with The Future. Okay, that's all we got to cover right for now.
That's it. That's everything.
All right. Thanks so much for checking us out. You know where to support us. Spotify, You're Not Stupid. Just give us as much love as you can wherever you can, and share this podcast wherever with whoever you think will like it. Thanks, Vic. I'll talk to you soon. Everyone, take care. Peace.